The next technique we're looking at is stamping. All right. So for scenic artistry, we typically won't use small stamps like the one we're creating today. We make very large stamps, stamps in a range of 2 foot by 2 foot, 3 foot by 3 foot, very large stamps in order to apply a large area at a time. The reason we use stamps is generally if we're doing something that requires a lot of the same shape over and over again, or if we, for example, if we're doing a lot of foliage, meaning a lot of leaves, we're doing large areas of leaves, large areas of grass, large areas of any kind of item like that. Typically, it's more natural-like. We can do stamps that are in shapes of rocks, stamps that are in shape of bricks, all kinds of different things. The way that we typically do this is we'll have a piece of upholstery foam or a large, which is very a spongy-like material. We will cut out and chunk out pieces into the shape of whatever we want it to look like. And then we will apply a backer of a piece of lumber on the back, as well as a handle on the back, so that we can dip the big stamp into a tray of paint and then start painting around by, holding the stick and essentially doing the same kind of stippling motion we did with the stippling technique to apply it on our canvas or on our flats, whatever our example is. We're going to do it in a miniature form here. I have a regular cheap dollar store kitchen sponge. And what I want you to do is decide on what your shape it will be. In this case, I'm going to take a Sharpie and I'm just going to draw some general leafy shapes. You can draw a heart or a fleur-de-lis or any type of different shape you would want to do. I'm just going to I'm not going to make it too complicated. All right, so this is, I have almost a starry shaped sort of a leafy pattern. Maybe I'll put a big stem here. Almost like a shamrock. All right, so I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut this out. I'll take the moment to sit there and get this all cut out. Now, if we were doing a large stamp, we might spend, a day or so just creating our stamp, whether it's, an area of leaves, like a branch, or just the leaves on a branch. A bush, a bush is a common one that we would create a big stamp for if we have a bunch of bushes that are on a big canvas backdrop. So I'm going to just take some scissors and cut this out. This being a sponge, it won't be a flat looking leaf when I'm done. It'll have some texture to it because of the nature of the sponge. I'm using a kitchen sponge, not a natural sponge. This doesn't work so well with a natural sponge, and we'll look at a different example of that later. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I don't know if I need that little stem, but so I have a little shape here. It's not beautiful, it's not perfect, but it's fine. I can use this as my base. All right. All right, so we'll dip our sponge, our little stamp, into our paint. Now I'm using chrome oxide green, and I'm going to start applying this by pressing it down nice and even and lifting. And I can go back over areas. I can stamp some more. By twisting, I can use little corners of this, and I start getting sort of my leafy pattern, whatever I need to use to get our shape down here. Okay. All right. So now, mind you, this is very textural. It's very flat looking. When we're dealing with scenic art, you got to remember that the audience is always about 20 to 30 feet away from the scenic artist. So any scenic art that's on stage up close often looks very chunky or looks very rudimentary, doesn't have a lot of detail, but from 20, 30 feet away from the audience's point of view, it looks very convincing. All right. Having the little break aparts with the pores of the sponge helps also give it a little more texture and allows the audience's eye to fill in the blanks. Oftentimes we will come back even later and might add even a little more detail. In this case, let's say I wanted to do a little bit of extra scenic work to do a highlight on one side, just to kind of make things a little more realistic, right? But mind you, this is the audience is 20 feet away. They may not see any of this. So we don't put a lot of effort into these kinds of things. All right. So there's a quick way to do a lot of foliage really quick. You don't have to put a lot of effort into it. So, and if we were doing a large backdrop that's say 30, 40 feet wide with a lot of trees, a lot of foliage, we may want to create a couple different stamps in order to make that all kind of work out. Okay. So what I want you to do, take the time to create your stamp. Use a kitchen sponge, just a cheap dollar store kitchen sponge. That's all you really need for this project. And then you can create it whatever you like. In my case, it was some foliage. If you decide you want something different, you want leaves or flowers or something else to a different effect, go ahead and do something different. I'm just kind of filling in here with a little bit of brush work, little extra marks here just to kind of make it look a little more interesting. You can do that or you can avoid that, doesn't matter to me. But the main purpose of this exercise is to use the stamp to create some generic shapes that are recognizable from the audience's point of view. All right. It also is a good guide for when you do later work on top of it to kind of build upon the layers of your paint. All right. So create your painting and we'll see you on the next one.